Welcome to Business and Beyond, the podcast where business leaders and big ideas meet real-world challenges. I'm Julie Wheeler, President and CEO of the BBB serving Western Virginia. Each episode, we will bring you candid conversations, expert insights, and real-life stories to help you lead with purpose, build trust, and grow your business with confidence. And thank you for joining us. I'm Julie Wheeler, President and CEO of the BBB serving Western Virginia. On this week's episode, we're diving into a discussion on the importance of customer care and how it can make all the difference. Today, I'm joined by Samuel Oakey III of Oakey's Funeral Service to talk about how they have focused on supporting clients when they need it the most while remaining rooted in family values over the course of their more than 100 years in service. Sam, thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
We've got lots of more questions, stuff to talk to you about. I think we could talk to you in multiple podcasts because you've got lots of wealths of information. So,
thanks.
So tell us a little bit about Oakey's, those that may not be familiar about your history in the Valley.
Yeah, Oakey's was begun in 1866 by my great-great-grandfather, John Oakey. He was in the Civil War. When it ended, he went into wood carving, did a number of tables and chairs and bassinets and things like that, and got into carving caskets. And back in the 1800s, that's how a lot of family funeral homes got started, by somebody that was carving caskets. And then that kind of segued into becoming a funeral director, undertaker, mortician. And he started Oakey's in 1866, and Oakey's was incorporated in about 1920.
Wow. So and then from there,
it's been
continued to grow.
It has.
Well, so what do you think's been the key to your longevity, company's longevity?
I think just having good people, great people working with us, and great people in charge. My father, my grandfather's brother. It goes all the way back, and these are folks that really cared about the families and about the employees, and it's just a legacy that I'm a little intimidated by because they did so well. But I just do the best I can and hope that that's enough. Well,
came up through good, and you're following good examples. So
thanks.
And it appears you're doing pretty well. So that's good.
Thanks.
Well, so what is the premier definition of customer service in your industry?
Well, of course, it's you're not going to make the customer happy in our business.
Exactly.
They're not going to go out of Oakey's skipping and saying yay. I think it's making a tough time a little bit easier for those that call on us. And I think that we do everything we can to try to make sure that we learn from any mistakes that we might make. We send out, every family receives a family response form where they fill it out, get it back to us, and we find out our strong points, our weak points. Our directors are trained.
Quick question on that.
Yeah.
Do you get positive ones back, or do you just get when something went wrong?
We get almost all of them are positive.
Oh, wonderful.
And that's
good to hear.
It is.
Sometimes people don't say anything unless they're unhappy.
Exactly. And
so
we get a great percentage back, too. We get like about 30% back.
Well, that is very high for a post-experience survey. Yeah.
We learn from that. But, we just try to take our time with each family. We don't tell our directors, well, you've got to do this in an hour.
Right.
The funeral can't last more than an hour. We give our staff a lot of leeway in how they serve the family, because some families, they want to get in and out of that funeral home quick.
Yeah.
They can't get out quick enough.
Yes.
Other families, they want to go over every word of the obituary and tell you their life story. And you know what? We should be willing and actually anxious to hear it.
Well, and you also need to be able to tell the difference of who wants what. And that's important.
Yes.
So I would think in that, and being able to provide the customer service, finding the right employees has to be key and critical.
It is. It's gotten harder, too.
Yeah. Is that a function of folks not wanting to go into the industry, you think, or?
I think so, yeah. I think that, and we saw it really accelerate during COVID, where folks didn't want anything to do with being around a decedent at that time. So But at the same time, the folks that we're getting now, the ones who make the cut, wow, they're great. We've got some rock stars as far as directors, embalmers, people who are like a Swiss Army knife. They can do anything.
Right.
And I couldn't be more proud of our folks. So we've got a good team. It's just getting that team and training that team and keeping them trained and hungry to continue to do well.
Good.
That's the key. And it's not easy.
And and how do you do that training? Because I would think some of that stuff's not trainable. You've got to have some innate
We tried
abilities.
to do it. We used to have a series called the Quest to Do the Best. And we would try to do something about once every 6 months. Of course, it ended up being about once every 2 years. But we would try to train our folks about how to answer the phone or how to greet people when they came in the door, how to roll the casket out or that kind of thing. It just wasn't working. We would onboard new people, and of course they hadn't had the previous training. So we found a place called Greystone Consulting about 4 years ago and signed on with them. They have the best of the best funeral homes that they get involved with training. They come in, they do intensive all-day training, sometimes just for the funeral directors, the licensees, sometimes for everybody. I mean, even the hostesses. And they have been nothing short of magnificent. They do a great job. They've got a fellow named Dave Speaks who comes in from Kansas City, and he just excites us, makes us want to do better.
Right.
They've got another guy named Michael that came in just last week, and he met with all of our managers to find out if we were giving them the proper tools to work with, to serve the families, to do well. So, we reached out because we realized we couldn't train like professional trainers.
But yes, well, and there is a lot to be said for someone who is trained to train. I mean, it isn't a gift. It is true to be able to do that.
I agree.
Yeah. So, obviously the compassion, the empathy is super important, but there's also a lot of practical details that go into every encounter that you have. How do you balance those or teach your employees to balance? I mean, do you have like tag team kind of stuff or...
Yeah, a lot of our employees have strengths and weaknesses. We have several that they feel very comfortable working in what we call the care center. That is doing the embalming, restorative work, cosmetics, hairdressing. That's where they have that's where they want to be, and that's their area of strength. We have some other folks that would prefer not to be in the care center.
Right.
And they find that their strengths are working funerals or meeting with families. So you try to, let the folks, you want everybody to have a little taste of everything, but then you let them gravitate to the area that they feel most comfortable in. If they're doing a good job, I'm fine with that. So I think, and you have to have staff members who are going to be honest with you. You don't want just a bunch of yes people who are going to say, yes, I like it doing that. Yes, I like doing that. I want somebody who's going to say, what, we can do this better here. Why don't we do this better there?
Right.
And I like that as long as it's done in a constructive manner.
Yeah. So how do you maintain the quality control with multi-locations, different managers, different people? Do you look at the surveys that come back and look for potential opportunities?
A big part. That's a big part of it. The surveys are gold, and families will tell us how they feel. We also I'll go to the different chapels and just see how they're doing and seeing how things look. And we're very proud of our facilities. We've got a head housekeeper who's in charge of all the facilities, and he'll go in there and check the ceilings, and he's really serious about that.
Yeah.
So we're
important.
Proud of how things look. But you know what? You can have the cleanest hearses, and we do, and you can have the best looking facilities and lawns that are manicured. But if you don't have good people who are going to serve the folks that come to visit you, you're lost.
Yes.
So it's all about the folks that work with us and treat the we don't like to say customers. We like to call them client families that come in, treat them well. And those families a lot of them are very quick. If we do something wrong, they will let us know. Right. They will call me or they will tell the manager, hey, I felt like this person rushed me, or hey, this person forgot to tell me to bring in my father's discharge paper, and I had to go back home and get it and bring it in again. So we learn from our mistakes. We know we're not perfect, and nobody is, but we try not to repeat the same mistake. And if we can do that, we're getting better.
Well, obviously COVID changed the world, and I think it changed your industry, your business a lot. How have you responded to that and adapted?
Yeah, that was a rough time, because at one point in time, we were not able to have visitations where they had more than 10 people in the visitation room at a time, or funerals that had more than 10 people in the chapel or church. Well, nobody's going to have a funeral with just 10 people. So we really did have to reinvent things during that time, and it was it was challenging. It was challenging to our bottom line as well as challenging to our staff, because I don't think I know of any funeral home where COVID was caught in the care center from a decedent. But you had families coming in making arrangements that had been around their loved one who died of COVID, and we would ask them to wear a mask. Some would, some wouldn't, but we were just going by what was told to us at the time. So that was really, really challenging. But we did learn that we needed to be a little more flexible after that, because we learned we couldn't just do things like we always had. We had to flex to meet what was going on. So now we have to flex to meet the increasing need of families that want cremation. We have to flex to meet families that maybe have challenging economic circumstances. So I think if anything, it's just taught us that we can't be so rigid in how we feel, that we have to be willing to listen to the families that come in, hear what their story is, and then maybe throw a few suggestions to them and find out how we can best meet their needs.
These are your options, and adapt, pivot as the world has pivoted. Because, I mean, obviously, do you let funeral services be live streamed? Do you do live streaming at all?
We've started, and I thought that would end after COVID, but people still want the live streaming.
Popular. Yeah, there's still a lot of people that can't get there. Maybe they can stop for an hour, but they can't take 2 hours.
Exactly. And even before COVID, we had some families that would come to us and they wanted to have a service, but they didn't have a home church. There's a lot of folks that just, they do not belong to a church, but they want someone to be the officiant at their funeral or memorial service. So we brought on 2 people, Nelson Harris and Donna Hopkins Britt, and we made them celebrants. And they took celebrant training. And now, if a family does not have a preacher, rabbi, or somebody who can kind of move the service along, these 2 folks, one or the other, can act as a celebrant. And whether it's secular or religious, they will be in charge of the service, and they will meet with the family, find out something about the person, and craft a service that will be tailored to the way the person lived their life.
That's fabulous. That really is. And that's meeting them. It's meeting them where they are.
It has been huge. Before that, we would just try to find maybe a retired preacher that could pinch hit, and they did a good job. But you know what? There's nothing like getting to know the family and spending some hours with the family. And I have seen more families leave our chapel talking. They said, "Wow, that." I felt like they knew him. Exactly.
Yeah, so that's the best, because you really can walk out sometimes and go, okay, they didn't know him. They just you read a couple scriptures or whatever. So to really have some real information and take the time, that is so. Gosh, what a gift!
Oh, it's powerful.
What a gift you give the family. It really is.
It is, and these 2 folks are good at what they do, and they seem to enjoy what they do. And families just gush with pride and how well the funeral was executed.
And you're keeping that personal touch, but using everything that the modern world offers.
Oh yeah, I mean, it used to be that every funeral had like the traditional organ music. And now, it's nothing for a family to bring in a playlist, and I know nothing about Spotify or Apple Music. but our people do, and they get onto the iPad and program certain songs, and they're not always religious songs, but it's what the family wants.
Right.
So that's been a big adjustment.
And the slideshows, the picture shows.
Oh yeah, the DVDs are very popular.
Stuff,
that's a great idea.
Yeah, it is. And I think it helps people, gives them comfort, I'm sure.
It does. Again, takes the focus off their death and puts it on their life. And we see folks just looking at that screen almost like it's a drive-in movie theater screen.
Exactly.
And just watching it,
Yeah.
And then when it changes, I remember when we went to the beach, remember that time, and we got lost. So it's just it's great. When these kind of things spur conversation and spur memories, and people, you see smiles on their faces instead of tears in their eyes.
Yeah, that is very, very special. Well, I'm sure families always have opportunities for not getting along completely or conflict. How do your folks handle it if there's a big disagreement, with a family, within a family?
Yeah.
What should be done? You have to see that.
We certainly do see that. It's been my experience that if a family is getting along well and everything was okay, that a death will bring them closer together. Mm-hmm. If there were fractures and fissures during the person's life, a death can just blow it even further apart. And I've actually seen families get into fistfights in the arrangement office.
Wow.
I remember one was about who was going to get the grandfather clock. And the lady had only been dead about 12 hours.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
We try to teach our folks, if it's going to be a bad situation, potentially violent, that we need to, maybe call the police or, tell the family, hey, just, you need to go back home and think about this. And once you all have come to some kind of consensus, then we'll get back together. Because we don't want to make a bad situation worse.
Right.
But you're right. We do see a lot of times where folks that come in, they're tired, they're hungry, they're angry, they're upset.
Right.
And then all it takes is maybe the wrong word from another side of the family, and it's sparks of fire.
Right.
And we are trained a little bit to maybe be to put out that fire.
It,
But if it's a big fire, then it's out of our control. And if it's something as big as one side wants cremation, wants a traditional burial, you really can't compromise on that.
Right. All the more reason to pre-plan, right?
Amen.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, so obviously your staff are put in very emotionally charged situations, whether there's conflict or not conflict every day. That has to take a toll. How do you keep them emotionally healthy?
You're right. It just can suck the energy out of you after a while.
Right.
And we depend on them to come to us and say, you know what, I need a mental health day. I'm not feeling it. I'm burned out. And during COVID, number one, we had more deaths during COVID because of that, and we had some of our own people out with COVID. So we were working with less people and having more volume, and that was tough. And we saw a lot of burnout then. But we just try to work with our people and make sure that if they need extra time off, if we try to give them two families to meet in one day and they say, you know what, I didn't even finish with the one from yesterday, okay, we'll work with you. Correct.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's all you can do. You try to keep your eye out, and you can sometimes spot symptoms of someone who's experiencing burnout. But on the other hand, you need your people to be honest with you and say, hey, I need help.
Well, your people are your most important asset.
They truly are.
They need to communicate if they're not
we do. We're part of Carilion Employee Assistance Program, and we do refer some of our folks if they're having a specific problem, either at home or a physical problem or stress, and they can get the help they need, and we never know what happens after that. So it's a very private thing.
Yeah, well, that's important too. Well, so obviously you've grown up through this. You've seen your granddad, your dad. How have you modeled? Did they model the leadership style that you have? Did you learn the business from them, and do you try to do the same thing for your folks? As far as model how you want them to be.
Yeah, they both had differing styles. My grandfather was much more business-oriented. He wasn't an introvert by any means, but my dad was much more, join the Squires, join the Rotary Club, go to Mountain Lake, for the New Year's Eve.
Right.
So they had differing styles of living their life and managing. And I guess I've tried to find the best from both of them.
Sure.
Because I was fortunate enough to work with both my dad and my granddad. And I wished I had appreciated that more, but you don't think about it when it's happening. But yeah, I think I have gotten some from my dad, some from my grandfather, and I'm sure they got some from their forefathers too. So I've just tried to take what I noticed from them and make it work for me. But you can't change the person you are.
Right.
I'm a very non-confrontational, I don't like conflict. So sometimes that works against you. People can, the public or sometimes even a staff member can take advantage of you because they think, he doesn't want to say anything about that.
Sure.
So I have to be a little careful about that. But I just have tried to do the best I can in the way I know how to do it. But I have been influenced by not just my family, but other wonderful managers and staff members we've had who I have seen how they have handled situations, and I try to emulate that.
Yeah. Well, so we talked a little bit about your surveys that you send out to your families. Does that help, you think, maintain trust and, make sure they know you're there next time they have an issue? Do you find a lot of repeat business, for lack of a better way to say it?
And it's not just the response forms. We have a lady who's been tasked with what we call aftercare. We've talked about pre-need and the importance of that, but aftercare is letting families know we care about them even after the funeral, even after they leave the cemetery or the crematory. And, it might be that they need some more death certificates. Mm-hmm. They might need some more thank you cards. They may just need somebody to listen to them.
Right.
And we also use our aftercare person as a quality control person because families will sometimes tell Sally, our aftercare person, of an unpleasant situation. They think that there was something as small as there was some bird poop on the hearse or something. That might not be a big deal to us, but it was to the family.
Right.
And we, I don't take anything too unseriously. I take everything seriously.
Yeah.
So if a family takes the time to tell Sally or myself about what they perceived as a problem, I'm going to look into it.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you do a grief service? I know at one point you did, like for loved ones.
Yeah, we do. We really don't. We're not licensed to do grief services, but we do have the aftercare, and we do have a memorial service, or what we call a service of remembrance.
Gotcha, okay.
Each year. It's coming up soon for families we've served over the past 12 months. And we have a speaker come in. We have special music. We do a candle lighting. We used to do a balloon release, but that's not environmentally correct.
Yes,
so now we let bubbles loose, I think. We blow bubbles at the end. But it's catered. It's a catered meal from a local caterer. So that's kind of our way of giving back at the end of the year to families that have trusted us over the previous 12 months.
Right. Well, I think that makes a big difference for people.
Thanks.
Yeah. So you've been a charter accredited business with us since 1940, and we obviously appreciate that partnership that we've had, and you've given a lot to the organization. You served on the board, your dad served on the board, and if I could go back far enough, your grandfather may have served on the board.
Might have.
Probably, that point, because we were pretty small. So how do you feel like accreditation has supported you within the community as far as a message that it sends to your clients or potential clients?
Yeah, we proudly show our BBB membership sign at our door of every chapel. I think doing that lets the general public know, we're proud of what we do, and we're not afraid to tell you we're with the BBB, and if you have a problem that you can't solve with us, go to the BBB, and they will solve it.
Yep.
And I think that pride in being associated with a group of firms that has that feeling is good. It makes me proud to be part, because I know that, I look down at the BBB, I look at who's joining, and I think, well, I wonder why they weren't in before, or something.
Right.
And I don't ever see anybody joining that I think I've had a bad experience with.
Right.
They're all Class A firms.
Yeah, well, we check you out pretty closely. So, and we're all about being a community of trustworthy businesses. So that's a lot of businesses do become part so that they can be with other kind of like-minded. How important do you think trust is in your world? I mean, I personally think you can't have enough. That's probably one of the most important things.
It's huge.
Yeah.
The families that we're working with, especially, they're trusting us with their loved one.
Yes, exactly.
With the care of their loved one, and that we're not going to do anything that would be offensive or rude or anything. So that's a huge trust factor right there. And then they're trusting us with, they bring in, diamond rings, and they give them to us and say, I want that to be put on after, before the visitation. We don't take that trust lightly. And just the fact that they call us when we know there are other good funeral homes in the valley that they could be calling, and they call us, that means everything to me, and I take it very seriously. So, the fact that people trust us makes me want to try even harder to give a good experience back to them. Yeah,
that's awesome. Obviously, you do. So
thank you.
So, we've been talking funeral business, your business, but what advice would you give to other small businesses on how they can build that loyalty and trust with their customer base and provide the excellent customer service?
That's a tough one because every business is a little bit different. But I think, you got to make money. I understand that.
Sure.
But when making money overrides the service you provide or the service behind the product you provide, I think that is bad. I think, if you will care about what you do and serve the customer and go above and beyond what they're expecting, then you know what? The bottom line, the profits are going to come naturally after that. But if you start thinking too much about, I need to be driving, a fancy car, or boy, I sure would like a place at the beach or something, that's where you start getting a little bit greedy, and you start cutting corners, or you start raising prices indiscriminately.
Sure.
And I think that, more small businesses need to think about that, serving the families instead of, how much did I make, that kind of thing.
Right. One last question. You've been serving the community. You've been very involved in the community. You obviously have served many, many families. What does exceptional customer service mean to you personally? Whether it's when you go somewhere as a customer, what does it mean? What do you expect? What makes you think, wow, that was great?
It's gotten to be, back when I was younger, if you went someplace and got bad service, you thought, this is bad service. You know what? Now you're surprised if you go someplace and get good service.
Yes.
So it really jumps out at me when I go maybe to a restaurant, or if I go to, even something like an auto parts store or a dry cleaner's, and I get somebody who smiles and jokes with me and takes the time to know me and gives me good service. I'm thinking, wow, this is good service, and it should be that way, but it is that way. So, and I think it goes back to good training and unselfish motives and really wanting to care about the people that trust in them.
Right. Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, that is going to end this episode of Business and Beyond. Thank you for listening. And Sam, thank you so much. Great wisdom you've imparted today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. We would love to keep this conversation going, so please connect with us on social media and share your ideas for future topics or guests. And don't forget to visit us online at bbb.org. And until next time, keep building with integrity, leading with trust, and taking your business beyond expectations, the BBB way.